So we're now going to add the base panel to our front and rear panels. You can do this in either order, it doesn't really matter. But before we get going, we're going to make a few marks on some of these pieces. So this is my base panel, and I've marked the centre of the long sides on both sides and the centre of the short sides on both sides. So you can see I've just made a small mark on the wrong side of the panel. On the exterior panels, I've made a mark that is centrally along the bottom edge on both of those panels. And while I'm thinking about it, what I've also done for my side panels is I've added a mark that's centrally on the short sides, on the top and the bottom, on both of them. And this will just help us with lining everything up a little bit later on. So if you haven't made those marks, now is a good time to do them. So I'll take the front of my bag to start with, laying the front panel right side up. I'm going to take my base panel and I'm going to lay it right sides together, matching up those centre marks. It should all match up at the corners as well. So, you know, if you find that your centre mark isn't where it's supposed to be, the corners won't match either. And I'm just going to pop a few clips in the centre part just to hold that together. When we stitch this, we are going to stitch starting 3/8 of an inch in from the outside edge. So rather than guessing this, I'm actually going to mark it and measure it. And all I do is put a little dot that is, see, there's the dot. It's 3 inches, 3/8 of an inch in from this side and 3/8 of an inch in from this side. So that's my start point. I'm going to do exactly the same at the other end. So do that dot that's 3/8 of an inch in, and that will give you your start and finish point. So I can now add a few more clips because I've been a bit sparse with them. And I'm going to stitch from that first point to that second point. So I'm using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to go between those two dots. So I'm just going to drop my needle down into that first dot so I know that I'm exactly at 3/8 of an inch. It's really easy to go a little bit more or a little bit less, and you really need it to be accurate. Slow down so that you finish on that dot as well that you've made. As you get to the end where you've got your dot, just backstitch a couple of stitches to secure your threads, and all is good. Just going to get rid of my thread ends, and then grab a seam ripper, and I'm going to rip out those basting stitches on the base and on the bottom edge of my exterior panel so that I can trim away my foam from the seam allowance. So that's one side, and then the same on the bottom here. Let's just get it going. Having trimmed out the basting stitches. I'm just going to trim out the foam from the seam allowance. So there we have no foam left in the seam allowance on either side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push that seam allowance towards the base. And then I'm going to top stitch down the side of the base. Now I'm going to start 1/2 inch in from this end and finish 1/2 inch in from the other end. So to make sure that I'm being accurate with that, I'm going to use my chalk marker to just, so that's wrong end, banana, right. I'm just going to make a little mark that's 1/2 inch in, just so that I know where I'm stopping and starting. I'm using a chalk marker because that easily rubs off. Now, because I've used faux leather on my base, it's quite stiff. If you've used fabric for your base, then you can press this seam allowance over. I'm not able to press it, obviously, because you can't press faux leather. But what I am going to do is I'm going to bring my bottom thread up, just lengthening my stitch length a little bit. I just push it over, and I'll use my finger almost to keep everything where it needs to be. So I'm finger pressing that seam, and I can feel that underneath that my seam allowance is pushed towards the base. So I'm just going to stitch along the side, on the base, along the side of the bottom, using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm not back stitching because I'm using my, I'm going to bury my threads. At the other 1/2 inch mark, I'm going to pull my work away so that I've got long threads, and in the same way as we have already, I'm going to take my threads from the front through to the back and tie them off. Now if you feel that you want to just do a back stitch, you can do, but I think it just gives a nicer look to do this. You can see I added my duct tape to my hardware. I haven't added extra hardware. I've got a logo badge on there, so that's what the bottom one is. This is my twist lock. So that's one side with the base fitted, and you can see there, because we do that bit of top stitching, you get a really nice sharp bottom edge on your bag. We're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So this is the back of my bag with the flap attached. I'm going to take my base panel and I'm going to match it up on both sides, and it should match the centre marks, which it does. Again, I just put a few clips in the middle to hold it in place, and then I'll put my 3/8 of an inch marks on in the corners, just so that I know where I'm stitching from and to. Eighths of an inch in that corner. Three-eighths of an inch in that corner. And then I'm going to stitch between the two, dropping my needle down onto that first dot. So just repeating the same process again. Got a bit of fluff there that's just appeared from nowhere. Until we get to the other 3/8 of an inch mark, and again we're just going to remove the basting stitches and the foam, and we're going to push the seam allowance towards the base of the bag and top stitch in exactly the same way as we did on the first side. We start 1/2 inch in from one side and finish 1/2 inch in from the second side. So we are literally just repeating what we've already done. This does actually create quite a large panel. So it can seem a little unwieldy, but for me this is the easiest way to construct this bag, to get a really neat bottom on it. So removing the back foam. Lengthening my threads so that I've got enough to do to bury my threads. And wrong end of the ruler again. Just gonna make that mark that's 1/2 inch in on that side. Side. I'm going to push the seam allowance towards the, I might actually do it this way around, push the seam allowance towards the base. I'm just going to use my fingers to flatten that out. I've got long threads top and bottom, so I'm not needing to back stitch because I'm going to bury my threads. to the second half an inch mark. And I'm just going to bury and tie off my threads. So you don't need to see me doing that again. Gets a bit boring after a while, I'm sure. So I'm just going to tie these off, and then I'll come back to you and we'll look at how we fit the sides and construct the outside of our bag.